Talk show host, Survivor host, the man who does it all. If you tuned in earlier, he voted me off my own show. Jeff Probst is still on the line. All right,
But you know what? You're redeeming yourself.
Okay,
and,
good.
and this is Redemption Island season, so you actually could win yourself back in this hosting role.
So there's an idol somewhere in my office, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay,
Exactly.
I'll be looking for it. Now, Jeff, we were talking in the last segment about the new daytime talk show, and we've got, of course, questions about Survivor. I'm sure you're asked them all the time, so
Yeah.
if you have a few seconds for some of those.
Go for it.
All right. Now, I'll admit, I thought that Lisa, and I know she was just on your show, right? I thought that she would be gone first episode, maybe second. Has she surprised you?
Yeah. But I have to say, I did not anticipate her being gone early, but like you, I thought it was possible. And in the beginning, when she and I were first talking, I said, if you last, you're going to be an inspiration because your struggle is a common one. You're a mom, you're Christian, you're struggling in your life. We knew at that point that she was going through some marriage difficulties. And this is not an uncommon story, but what is uncommon is you've chosen to play this devilish game, Survivor, in which the motto is outwit. That's part of it. That means use your wits, and that might mean lying. And true to form, she's lasted long enough that women are now going, wow, look at this woman. She's being so vulnerable. And this mom who wants to put on a good display of Christianity is now in a game that you have to lie, and it's okay. It's in the rules. You can lie, and she still struggles with it. So I'm so glad she's lasted.
Okay, so you've done the show for so many seasons, and I know you probably watch people's, audition videos and you read over the notes about them. So you must be a pretty good judge of character now when it comes to contestants. So is there a personality trait or physical ability? Like, what should people know about being on the show? Like, what makes a good contestant on Survivor?
I think it's a few things. Self-awareness is right up there. If you aren't aware of how you're perceived, it's going to be difficult because perception is reality. And especially when the only reality is the other 15 people that you're playing with, then the only thing that matters is how they perceive you. Nobody knows your grandmother and that you go visit her every Sunday or that you're really nice at church. No one cares. They just want to see how you're perceived. So if you don't realize that people don't trust you, you're dead. And if you don't realize that people see you as lazy and you need to pick it up, you're dead. So I think self-awareness is a big one. And I think for some people, patience, meaning count to 10. It feels so good right now to say kiss my ass, but don't. Say count to 10, walk around the palm tree, and come back, and hopefully somebody else has said it for you. And now they're in the hot spot. Because a lot of Survivor is staying out of the way of the bullets and letting your ego go to bed. Just give it a rest. You know you're brilliant. Nobody else needs to know right now. Be aware of how you're coming across. Let other people make the big decisions. Let them know you're with them. But be looking for that moment. And when you see that moment, you have to go for it.
Now, I have to ask you, though, because people come in with this big game plan where they're going to have a fictitious story about themselves, and then they open up, they hit it off with somebody within the first 5 minutes, and all of a sudden spill the beans and, create an alliance. Is that a stupid thing to do? Because you still don't really know people at that point. Like, how...
I don't think you can judge it because everyone does it. So, in the beginning, I used to look at people and say the same thing you did. You'd say, why are you doing that? Haven't you learned from the earlier seasons? But at a certain point, I realized if people continue to do it year after year, then it's proof to me that it's in our nature. And I think when it comes to confiding in somebody, it probably comes from such a strong desire to trust. You're looking for someone you can rely on. And if you think you find it, you want to give them a token. You want to give them something to say, I'm going to tell you something. You want that bond. And if the reveal is something about how magnificent you are, that's your ego. Like whenever we have rich guys or doctors, they always say, well, I'm not going to tell anybody. And I always say, you won't be able to help yourself. You're so enamored with yourself that you won't be able to not tell them you're a plastic surgeon. That's your identity. And sure enough, day 2, I wasn't going to tell you guys this, but I'm a plastic surgeon, board certified, number 1 in New York State, worth $50 million. I just want to let everybody, well, why? Why? No one cared until now, and now you're done.
Yeah.
So that's that whole ego thing. Shut up. Don't. Malcolm's playing a great game of not giving anything up. And people are giving him information, but he's not giving up information. He's smart enough. He's a really smart dude, but what I love about him is he bites his tongue. He doesn't tell you stuff. He could tell you, but he lets you tell him whatever you want.
Today's best music with Jeremy Bradley.
Apparently we're out of time. We're going to have more with Jeff Probst right after this. The Survivor finale is right around the corner. We are still joined by Jeff Probst, host of one of the longest-running reality shows ever. After 20-some seasons, dumbest move ever.
There have been a few.
Who was it that got voted out with 2 idols?
James.
Yeah. Does that rank up there then?
No, I don't think that was really one of the dumbest moves. We gave him a hard time, but he played the odds, and he thought, I'm safe, and if I survive this, I'll be safe down to, I think, like final 5. He played the odds. It's so easy to backseat drive. But giving up your idol when you have it and giving it to somebody else when there's only a few people left in the game, which quite a few people have surprisingly done, is always a risky move. But again, going back to what I said a minute ago, if you're there for 5th place, that's where you'll end up. And 5th place doesn't pay much. Mm-hmm. 1st place, however, pays $1 million. And even after taxes, it's still many, many hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you're playing to win, you're going to make moves that people can sit at home and go, you idiot. But they weren't there. You know, it made sense at the time. So I don't know. I think most of the dumb moves just come from either you're just dumb. I mean, when people say, oh, but this challenge favors tall people, or, Kerhoff, our challenge guy, will always say, yeah, and puzzles favor smart people or work against dumb people. I mean, everybody's got their qualities. So I think giving up idols are probably the dumbest move. But, man, when you're not eating, you're really not eating, just lose your mind. You can't concentrate anymore. You don't know what you're doing or saying.
Well, let's talk about then when they're not eating, what are you doing? Because I know, like, your counterpart, Phil Kogan from The Amazing Race, we love having him on the show, and he said that people always think that he's just flying from place to place. So what are you doing then while the tribes are living on the island? Like, what's your regular day then when you're not with them?
Yeah, it depends. We're rehearsing or blocking or testing other elements of the show, whether it's challenges or figuring out how we're going to do a switch or where we're going to do the merge. Because I'm the executive producer as well, or one of them, and the daily showrunner. So most of our day is spent prepping for what's going to come later, and then a small portion of my day is spent doing on-camera stuff. And now on the beach where the survivors live, our producers are out there with them all day. That's the main job during the day is a couple of teams, the camera teams, and our producers are out there just observing and taking notes. That's all they do all day is they observe and take notes, and they're directing their cameras where they think the best story is or who to follow, but they're really just following what's happening. Our schedule is non-existent. You're on 24/7. Even though you may have a call sheet that says, okay, we're going to rehearse this challenge at this point, we're going to have a team meeting at this point, somebody could, need medical attention at 4 in the morning. And so the radio is always on. It's always by your bed. There's always a cell phone of some sort, even though it's a local, it's coming off our own satellite, so it doesn't always work. But there's always communication because it happens. It'll happen many times a year where there's somebody that might need to be evacuated or there might be a problem at camp, and you're out there for 39 days, living, breathing survivor. And if you have an afternoon off and you're in a place where you can scuba dive, go scuba dive. But you still have the radio with you. And it's that way for our whole crew. Get your job done, and when your job's done, knock yourself out. Do whatever you want. Read, surf, sit on the beach, and then be back at work. And it's why that world is so appealing, because there's no clocking in or clocking out. And as a result of that autonomy, everybody does their job to the highest degree, and they also party to the highest degree. They do surf, and they love to surf, or they will do photography, or they will scuba dive. But, boy, the next morning they're back in the art department cranking out some beautiful piece of art.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask too then. I mean, because you have some amazing, whether it's a set or the different challenges and obstacle courses, how do you guys get everything over to where you're going if you're in such remote places?
Yeah, it's a big deal. You got to ship the timber in from the nearest, port. Like, I think we got everything from Manila in the Philippines. And that's a big deal. Getting our food is a big deal. It comes in on big crates, or we'll get big shipments, and it'll be a huge container that will come with food for weeks. And so it is a bit like living on a military base. So when you eat food, it's in a big mess hall, and they're in these big platters, and one person goes in after another, and you just follow in line, and you grab the big ladle, and you stick it in, and you grab some spaghetti. Or it's not like on a movie where you go up to a little craft services truck and say, hey, I'd love an omelet with a little tomato and oregano and some French toast. No, today we're serving pancakes and cereal, and there's some eggs if they're still there.
So you're confirming that no 5-star accommodations when you're on location?
No, we have never had a 5-star accommodation, ever. The nicest we had was in Nicaragua, and I will say that was pretty sweet. I had a cool house overlooking the bay, and most of our crew was in a really cool hotel. Not 5-star, but for Survivor, incredible.
Today's best music with Jeremy Bradley.